Scott Hamilton, you've told your story so many times, and I don't want this to just be another conversation. And so I've spent a bunch of time. It's been over the last week of digging in to this Scott Hamilton wormhole of depth and everything.
So sorry.
And so I've been looking for this other angle, a different view on this incredible story. And so with this different angle, I want to take us back to a familiar place, which is the tallest podium in Sarajevo in 1984. Mm-hmm. And the national anthem just finished playing. Mm-hmm. You have a gold medal around your neck. Mm-hmm. There are tears streaming down your face. Mm-hmm. And you said something that only the viewers at home can lip read. Do you know what you said? Do you remember what you said?
I know. I wish I could just pull it up, but I know I've seen it before and I recognize it, but I can't think of it right now.
I'm glad you can't, because you said, I can't believe it's over.
Yeah.
And I've watched that many times over the last several days, and I have my own guess of that. I have this feeling you've talked about your story, and it was this culmination of everything you worked for and the years leading up to it, and your mom looking down from heaven. And you've said about gold medalists that moment crushed them.
It can, if you allow it. It can totally, I had some pretty remarkable people come into my life, post Olympics. First thing that happened after the ceremony is, we're all kind of backstage, and Doug Wilson, the director from ABC, is one of the original Wide World of Sports guys. He just said, I want you to know right now that your life will never be the same. And I was like, okay. I had no idea what he was talking about. And so on the way to Sarajevo, my coach and I, we went to Paris for a few days to kind of do the time change and to kind of get all that jet lag out of my legs, so that when I arrived in Sarajevo, I could throw down the best impression possible and let everybody know I'm ready. So on the way there, we were in Chicago. We're connecting in Chicago, and I was, we got there early, and there was a long layover, and I was reading a book, and I had an empty gate, and I lost track of time, and I looked up and I go, oh my goodness, there's no clock. So I asked a guy walking by, I go, excuse me, sir, what time is it? And he just looked at me like, leave me alone. And he kept walking. It's like, I'm on my way to the Olympics to represent the United States, represent this guy. Yeah. And he won't even give me the time of day, right? So I go, okay, well, so that was on my way to Sarajevo. So Doug Wilson says, oh, by the way, your life will never be the same. I go, okay, all right, sure. And I got back through Chicago. We got kind of that connection in Chicago back to Denver. And I was actually stopping in Chicago for a few days to see some friends. And I went to baggage claim, and I ran into a couple high school classes on a school trip. And I spent about 2 hours signing autographs. And I was like, okay, that's way different than when I came here last time.
Did they tell you what time it was too?
Yeah. We lost track of time, right? But it was kind of like that was stark. And then I spent a day and a half in Chicago just visiting, my dearest friends. And then Bill Daniels, who was one of the original cable television guys, he was one of the pioneers of cable television. He sent his private jet to pick me up in Chicago to fly me back to Denver. Okay, that's different. And then I arrived on the tarmac in Denver, and there was people and presentations and press and media. And then they put me on a fire truck with all the football cheerleaders and all this other stuff. And then we drove through downtown Denver to a destination of Larimer Square, which ironically I was, in a month or two later, I'd be living there. Right. So I'm in Larimer Square, and there was all this music playing. I look up, and it's my friend Freddie Rodriguez, who had a jazz band. We used to go to this jazz place all the time called El Chapultepec in Denver. And he's on stage, probably played for the biggest crowd he's ever played for. There was standing room. I mean, it's just the whole Larimer Square was just packed. It was like 5,000 people. And I'm like, okay, this is different, and then they took me over to a comedy club, and they had the stage set up, and they did all these presentations and all these gifts and all these wonderful things. Like, yeah, that was different. And, the mayor's on stage talking about me at this rally, and then the governor's wife. And then something remarkable happened. I was called into the governor's office, and I thought, most of those that I've experienced before in the past have been like photo ops, just sort of like, I'm a political guy, and here's me with this, our, new Olympic gold medalist, whatever, and I was like, okay, I'll go meet the governor. I'd be honored to meet the governor. So I walk into his office, and I'm wearing a jacket and tie, and I honored the moment. And there was another gentleman in the office, and he told him, just, we'll catch up later. And then he walked out, and it was just me and the governor. No cameras, no nothing, just me and the governor. And we talked for a little while, and his wife was at the big, parade rally, and she was a cancer survivor, which really, just inspired me, because my mom lost her battle with cancer.
Yeah.
And so we're talking, and he goes, hey, I just, look, you seem like a really nice guy, and my wife really enjoyed meeting you. And I just feel like, I feel the need to, just sort of pour into you a little bit. And I go, sure, anything. And he said, have you ever heard of the hometown hero syndrome? And I go, no, I don't know what that is. And he goes, well, it's basically the quarterback for the high school football team, throws the big pass at the end of the game to win the state championship, and he's carried off the field on the team's shoulders. And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, the hometown hero syndrome is that quarterback expects the rest of his life to be just like that.
Wow.
He goes, look, I want you to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but I want you to know that it's not going to last forever. You seem like a really nice person. I just really wanted to, give you some perspective that this is great. It's going to be awesome, and you're going to enjoy it, but your whole life isn't going to be like this. And I just thanked him. I just thought it was really cool. And the next thing that happened after that was my orthopedic surgeon asked if I would speak at the Paralympic banquet. All the Paralympians were coming back from Sarajevo. And I go, of course, I'd love to. I'd be honored. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I was absolutely crushed when I walked into the room thinking I'm all that. And I see every description of human being you can imagine. Some without limbs, some blind, some deaf, some, everyone had some level of disability, and they all had the same medal as me. And I'm able-bodied, and I can't even imagine what their training regimen was, their obstacles overcome, their, just in that moment, going down a hill on one leg, or blind, or what. And I just was like, I was so humbled in that moment that I thought, I didn't do anything. I just won another competition. And wow. And so from that, I just decided that the only thing left to do is build something new, and that was my professional career. And so, it just, with fresh legs and a fresh perspective, I just put my head down and got to work.
So that's one, because you're so well recognized. I was laughing, imagining you trying to go out and buy eggs, and you're just trying to go to the grid. And then, but for the person who meets you, it's the one time to meet Scott Hamilton. So it's
I meet people all the time, and it's fun. I really enjoy it. I joke. My line is, I fly Southwest. I meet people every day, and it's all good. And I really welcome interaction, conversation, because I realize that everybody has a really cool story to tell.
Yeah.
Everybody has a phenomenal, interesting, powerful story to tell. And why would I close myself off to that? Because I feel like my story is more interesting than theirs. That's not even close to being true. I'd be fascinated, just to kind of get to know people. And so, I kind of came to this, I don't know, it's probably around cancer. Yeah. Where I realized that, the world is living with the clenched fist.
Yeah.
And I live with an open hand. Right. And so in that, it's like somebody used the illustration. If love was sand, and you're trying to, hold as much love as you possibly could in your hand, you would open your palm and you would stack it up, right? Open hand. It can come and go, right? It's just, everything's there. It's all good. It's free. It's free. But if you have a clenched fist and you're trying to hold on to sand that way, by the time you open your hand, you realize that it's empty. and there's nothing in it because there's no room for anything in it because you have a clenched fist. And so for forever, I always thought maybe I'm just going to live with an open hand and I'm going to avoid the clenched fist. And it's really been liberating and powerful to kind of see the world in that way. And when I do see a closed fist, I don't meet that with resentment. I meet it with kind of like, that's so sad. It's like they're missing it. They're missing the really cool stuff just by allowing things to, it's the Lord's plan. It's his world. He created it. Like I'll do my part and I'll just love people. And, and from there, we'll just kind of see where it goes.
The thing that strikes me as a theme that I've seen emerge in going through your story, and even beginning with that line that you said that I can't believe it's over, and then that experience you had right after, and then it wasn't over. And so the thing that's jumped out to me a lot is these moments throughout your story where it should have been over, and it began as, and I want you to take us back to it, but it began as an adopted child, and your mother and your father said it's not over for him, and then it went into you got sick and your mom said no, it's not over, and then so people said about you it's not over, and then you said for yourself it's not over, and now you're saying for others through the CARES Foundation it's not over for you either. So I have this, and I don't know if this theme is right on or not, or if I'm trying to be too abstract, but it seems to me that it's over and over and over again. It was these moments that it should have been over, and whether somebody else for you for yourself, or you for others have said, no, it's not over.
It's really wild. It's just looking back, it's we're at our best when we're moving forward. And, I think, when I was a little kid and I was in all the hospitals, I was just a kid. I didn't know that was my reality. I didn't know. I mean, you go to a children's hospital now and you see kids that have been sort of professionally sick for a long time, and that's their world. They don't know any other world. That's just theirs. And they adapt and they learn how to cope with, the daily treatments or tests or whatever. And that was kind of me back then. And so I was just moving forward. I was just, I was active and fun and crazy. I made the best of every situation. And then I, I'd give my parents the morning off. I started skating and
will you go into some depth there for people who haven't heard it? It's such a beautiful, maybe starting the sickness and from there, just going into some depth.
Yeah. So I stopped growing when I was really little. And so, they didn't know because I was adopted, right? They didn't know if it was normal or if this is something they need to be concerned about. And then I started showing some signs of stress. And so they realized it wasn't normal. So for the next 4 years, I was in and out of hospitals. Started in my hometown, then went to bigger city hospital in Toledo, and then a bigger city hospital in Ann Arbor near Detroit, and then bigger city hospital in Boston. And each year, like each of those hospitals took about a year and just to complete their work. And they could never find what was wrong with me. It was kind of misdiagnosed in the beginning, or halfway through, I guess, in Ann Arbor, they thought I had cystic fibrosis, and then they realized I didn't. And then I had every symptom of a disease called Shwachman-Diamond syndrome. And so I was accepted to be looked after by Dr. Shwachman himself. And
wow.
He put me through all the tests, had me every symptom. And he said, I don't have it. So I was kind of sent home with sort of like instructions of live a normal life, see what happens. Because if we can't diagnose it, we can't treat it.
Yeah.
And so just go home and see what happens and see where this thing goes. And so it was right after that our family physician thought my family was just, my parents were just shattered and exhausted. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of the financial, emotional, just all of it, the physical toll it took on them just to be dealing with a sick kid. And so to give them a morning off, I went to the rink. It was a brand new facility at Bowling Green State University. I was just there last weekend. Wow. It's amazing facility. It's the one university building that is used as much by the city of Bowling Green as it is by the university itself.
That's
so
cool.
It's really a great destination. And so I started skating and then I just realized that I could do something as well kids. And I got a kind of big taste of self-esteem. And then I realized I could skate as well as the best athletes in my grade. And then I got really totally rink rat. That was it. I was going to be a rink rat. not, I was on the ice all the time. And so I loved it. And it was fun. It was satisfying. I saw myself getting better. I saw myself getting stronger. I found myself getting healthier. And so my parents were like, well, nothing's worked over the last 4 years except for this. So we're just going to stay with this. And then, you know, I started testing and competing and traveling a little bit and doing all that. When our family got fully invested, my mom was the test chairman at the skating club, and she was really great at hospitality. So that really allowed her to kind of understand how to best entertain the judges so they'd want to come back and, you know, judge these tests and these competitions. And then my dad, you know, he loved building things. He was good with his hands. And so he would build all the props for the ice shows, and they were really creative in the way they did that. So everybody was all in. My brother took skating lessons as well and played hockey. My sister took some in the beginning and was in a couple of the original ice shows. And so it was just really, our family got totally taken up into this new activity. And it just was, you know, I just was learning and growing and learning and growing. And it was an answered prayer.
So that's around 6 years old, and I know I don't want to fast forward too much because it's, I mean, the thing that I'm struck by this, I watched your I Am Second video, which was fantastic, and you,
oh, thanks.
The thing that, if not for that sickness, your growth would have not been stunted, and you would not have become the ice skater that you became, and you probably wouldn't have gotten on the rink. I mean, it wasn't until years late.
Yeah.
I mean, connect. I would love for you to jump forward to 1997 and to your brain tumor diagnosis, which was 2004, your first one, where I'd love to connect those two stories, because that's another.
Yeah. So I had this 4-year tour of hospitals and they could never diagnose it. And then I went through a pretty well publicized bout of cancer in 97. I'm sure we'll get to that. And then in 2004, I'm now a husband with a young son, and I'm symptomatic, and I go into the Cleveland Clinic, where I always tell, you know, men, especially because we're less vigilant with our health than women, you know, it's like, if you're feeling something odd or weird or something's different, just get it checked out.
Yeah.
You know, get to the root of it. And so I decided to put my money where my mouth is, and I went to the clinic, and I just had them, you know, answer some questions, and they just said, well, you're getting older, or it's just an after long-term effect of the chemo, or it's just this, or, you know, they kind of explain everything away. It's like, none of that really sits well. I go, it's my peripheral vision that's wacky. And they go, oh, okay, well, let's get you in for a head scan, you know? So they went in for the head scan, and my family was arriving that day because that had a big benefit I put on in Cleveland every year. And so I'm walking out of the MRI, and the attending physician said, there's something in there. And I just said, you'd be the first to actually, you know, say that, because really, there's nothing going on in there. And so he said, your doctor will be waiting back in his office. And so I went back to my doctor's office, who treated me for my cancer. And he just said, you have a brain tumor. I was like, no, I get a pass. I did chemo, I did surgery, I get a pass. I don't have to go deal with anything that's close to that. You know, I get a pass. He goes, no, whatever this is, we got to deal with it. So my wife arrived that day, and, you know, Tracy just, you know, she and my son Aiden were arriving with her parents, and she goes, what's going on? I go, I'll tell you upstairs. So we went up to the room and put Aiden on the floor, and he's like, you know, banging on the, you know, phone on the cradle like kids do. And she just said, what's going on? I have a brain tumor. And she just grabbed both my hands and just started praying. And it was really powerful. You know, it's like I was leaning into faith, really leaning into faith, you know, up until that moment, and that sealed the deal. And so they were having a hard time diagnosing it. And finally they had to go into a biopsy. So there's a little hole in my head right here that went through and, you know, took a piece of it. And you know, I woke up from the surgery, and everybody was smiling, and it's like, what's going on? And they go, we know what it is. And it's like, we're just got to figure out how to treat it now. And I go, okay. They go, you're going to be fine. It's like, great. And so the doctor gave my Tracy this information on a craniopharyngioma brain tumor. And it says on there, it's like, oh, it says, Tracy goes, listen to this. Craniopharyngiomas are usually detected early in a child's life due to a lack of growth and development. So it seems I was born with this brain tumor. And so, it's like the perspective comes with, am I angry or am I a victim because of this brain tumor? Well, I mean, if I connect the dots, it's like, no, it allowed for amazing things to happen.
Yeah.
So in that, it's like, a lot of people, accuse me of being a disgusting serial optimist, but
Disgusting
I don't know.
serial optimist.
But it's just like that. It's like, I understand that nothing is really by accident. And everything is meant to strengthen me or prepare me for the next. And in that, it was really cool that it answered so many questions, why I was in the hospital. And can you imagine, just for a second, if they would have found that brain tumor in 1963 or 4? Wow. No, it would have been awful. So
who knows? Yeah, who knows how they would have tried to approach it?
They would have taken the top of my head off.
Oh my gosh!
So it would have been barbaric, and it would have changed my life for the worst. And so now that we have all this technology, they're able to detect it. Now that we have all this technology, they're able to treat it in a way that allows me to kind of get back to life. And now that, even though the treatment had lifelong effects, they're able, with metabolic and hormonal function, they're able to replace those through, pharmaceuticals, and I can live a relatively normal life.
As you, with your 4 kids, have in that story, I mean, to me, I hear that as like the thing that you believe right now is the worst thing in your life could be like the biggest catapult for you.
You never know. You just don't know.
As you were raising your kids, did you go back? I mean, it seems to me like I'd be telling this story every day and I'd wear my kids out because it's just so profound.
No, I think they get it. I mean, they know me, and I'm their dad, so I'm just, I don't get it. I'm just so, square, and my jokes are dumb, and I'm a dad, right? So that's all that stuff. But that's, I think they both understand that, or, both my birth children especially understand that, genetically, there's some stuff that happened to me that they've got to be vigilant about, right? Sure. And the other side of it is there's stuff within me that is within them, where they can now explore, athleticism in a way of knowing that there is, with work and with dedication and with proper processing of failure, you can really take it as far as you can take it. It's just, not everybody that steps on the ice is going to go to the Olympics, right? But there are some that if just because of timing and luck and, genetics and perspective and right intentionality and all these things, it's like, you can go pretty far, depending on all those things, right? So for me, it was a real combination of divine intervention. It was just, kind of personal story. Like, being in hospitals for all those years taught me how to be very independent. So when you're stepping on the ice by yourself in a big moment, you're kind of already pre-wired for that, so in that there's a blessing. So it's really just, leveraging your blessings and learning from your setbacks, where you can really, step into those moments and kind of go, oh, that's what that meant. I get it now. Oh, that didn't make any sense back then, but now, okay, that was a real hard time, but an incredible long-term blessing.
And what's cool about that for you is you actually got to see the full circle of that. I mean, the fact that it was, I say, cool. I mean, you had a brain tumor. That's not fun. But a lot of people, you'll go through things and you don't know what that has equipped you for. You don't know what you avoided because of that. You don't know what opportunities were afforded to you. You found out, okay, this is why I was in the hospitals. This is why this is the good stuff that came from my growth being stunted. So it's neat that you got to see that perspective, where a lot of people just think like, this sucks, right?
Well, it does. And it does. And I don't blame anybody for thinking that. But you're making assumptions, and you're creating perspectives without all the information, and
man,
that's kind of it. If you don't know why this happened, it's like, why did why did I move from here to there? It felt like I was going to be with a coach or get better ice time. Oh, because of this. And why did I have cancer? It's like, why does anybody get cancer? It's like,
Yeah.
well, okay, I was lucky that through research, 2 guys from Indiana figured out how to treat my cancer. Okay, pay attention to that. Moving forward, okay, it set me down. It really allowed me to take stock. And then I was able to step into the next part of my life with an open mind and open heart. I wasn't, and in those times, it's like, it's almost, sometimes it feels like, we get moved, it's like the Lord's whispering into our ear all the time. No, go here, do this. I need you over here. I want you to do this. And you keep going later, not now. It's like, Jonah getting in the boat going the wrong way. It's like, let me put you in a fish and I'll tell a fish where to go, right? It's kind of like all that. It's like, no, we get moved, right?
Yeah.
So, I had been, through all the, sort of notoriety and all the incredible wealth, that I was able to experience and all the other stuff, I wasn't going where I was supposed to be going. And I wasn't living as and I was turning into something I didn't like, and in that it was on me to kind of, right the ship, kind of get back on course. And I didn't understand that until I got sat down with cancer. And because of the nature of the chemotherapy and the 38 staple surgery, it's kind of like, okay, all right, I'm really giving this is perspective. And I have a second chance at life where my mom had no chance.
Yeah.
2 years they threw everything they could at her, and she was tough and strong, but there was never a chance in the world that she was going to survive that cancer. So it's like, now what do I do? Well, I was a fundraiser when she died.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, I'm now a survivor. And it's time for me to become more of an activist. How do I change this for the better and forever? And it's been an ongoing, kind of quest, mission,
right.
To, really just figure out where I can best serve the cancer community to make sure an 18-year-old boy doesn't have to bury his mom.
That's powerful. The one thing that jumps out from the Tracy story, the story of your brain tumor, is you think about when Jesus healed people, sometimes it was their own faith, but then sometimes it was somebody else's faith. And he said, because of this person, on behalf of this person's faith, you're healed. And I think about Tracy just like, again, like an it's not over moment where she grabbed your hands and prayed, and it was on her faith on behalf of you that gave you faith. And then you went through that. That she sounds like a pretty amazing woman for that to be her immediate reaction.
Yeah. She's really, and she's just grounded, and she's smart, and she's, she's just empathetic, and she's super compassionate, and she just understands things in a way that maybe others don't, or maybe it's just just the way that she grew up, and the way that, she was so rooted in her faith from a very, very early age that she allows things to be looked upon differently, but, with incredible wisdom and almost with clairvoyance, it's really wild. It's like she can see things coming a mile away where I kind of like, I have no idea what's going on. And so I just have to, just be the guy that goes, I get it. Okay. Yeah. you see this in a much stronger way than I do, and much more clear way than I do. And I just, okay, how can I participate in this, or how can I move forward? And she's remarkable. She when I was going through, all my brain tumors, I'm on my third one now. And it's just like, with each one I'm going in for a scheduled routine, scan, and whatever in the news, I'm going to just accept it joyfully. Right. So she was doing an interview one time, and I'd never seen her do an interview before. So I snuck around the corner. I was listening, just sort of eavesdropping on the interview. And the interviewer said, what's that joy thing? Joyful stuff that Scott talks about with his testing. And she said, oh, don't misunderstand. It's like joy isn't lack of fear and suffering. It's how you go through it. And it's like, she is so smart. Wow. I just admire her perspective and her way of really being able to articulate something in
Yeah.
a way that is really broadly, accepted.
Yeah.
You can say that and say, okay, that I'm gonna have to process that for a minute. That whole joy isn't the lack of fear and suffering; it's how you go through it.
Mm.
Okay, all right, I got to process that and apply it because obviously it works.
Yeah, right.
Just, yeah.
You said, and I know we're not going linear here, by design, you're on your third brain tumor. What is life like now? How are things right now with this third
I
one?
just ignore it.
Yeah.
I've given it such power and authority over me for such a long time that, the first one was treated with gamma knife radiation, which wiped out all my pituitary function. And so I'm on all these, replacement hormones and all these things. And I just got to be vigilant on certain things because my body doesn't operate the way it used to, but I just need some help. So I got the help, and that's good. Brain tumor number 2, it presented itself really well for surgery. And because I believe not in second opinions, but in seventh opinions, and I have the right people around me that aren't just hoarding the gig, as it were.
Yeah.
I got direct access to the foremost authority on my particular brain tumor, who's in Boston, and invented the surgery that I needed. So
wow.
I went to him, and there's about probably a 3% chance, that the surgery isn't going to go exactly as planned. And normally I'm kind of in that 97%, but this time I was in the 3%. And so,
oh gosh,
there was an artery in a different place than most people. And so they nicked an artery going in, it became an aneurysm. And then, it's sort of one surgery became 9. And so, and then I woke up at the end of that whole journey. I woke up and I was blind in my right eye. And so they had to kind of figure out how to redeem that. And so I got about 60% vision in that eye. So, it was a tough go. And then, so 2004, brain tumor, gamma knife, 2010, 9 surgeries, 2016, it shows up again. And this time it was different. This time it was everything in my spirit said, get strong. I was like, I don't know what that I don't know what get strong. What is that? What's going on? I had no idea. Everything in the back of my mind was just saying, don't worry about this, just get strong. And I was like, all right, well, I just, all right. And so they go, what do you think? Do you want to do the surgical or the medical option? I go, I'm going to go home and get strong. And I didn't know if it was physical, emotional, intellectual, or spiritual. So I kind of chose all the above. And it was really amazing how, in just that decision to change the way I live a little bit and really focus on the important things, that the tumor has shrunk, grown, not grown, shrunk, grown. It's just been kind of doing this, a little bit. And so it's like, okay. So for the last, what was a 2004, 2010, 2016, a pattern emerging.
Right.
I've been able to skip, the last 7 years, I've been able to skip a whole treatment cycle just by being more aware of, kind of my physical being and everything else. But, it's like we're, as I tell a lot of people that, come to me with cancer diagnosis and what are next steps, I just said my next steps are really to live joyfully and productively and wonderfully. And, it's just like, because our bodies are susceptible and fragile and vulnerable to countless things, equally resilient, ultimately temporary.
Yeah, right.
So we live in the tension of that all the time. So for me, the best way to go is just to, today's one of your days, live it. I was at a fundraiser in New Jersey, and it's called, what was it called? Buying Time. That was the name of the fundraiser, and they have it every year. So this guy, his brother puts on the fundraiser because the gentleman who inspired it succumbed to cancer. He was given 6 months. So, it's always 6 months, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's always 6 months, but it's always 6 months. I think it's kind of one of those best guess things, right? Yeah. And he said, well, I know you can't cure me, but how long can you keep me alive? Right? And they kept him alive for 5 years. And in those 5 years, he lived greater than he ever could have without that diagnosis. right?
Hmm.
So he bought time. He was buying time. And so, now they're trying to find a cure for his cancer and other cancers by doing these big fundraisers for research. And it's really remarkable that, we're given so many days, and today's one of our days. You got to live it, right? And so it's that whole, and again, I'll use the word again, tension of living in that susceptible, resilient, temporary. And the tension of that is just sort of, okay, so be vigilant, understand, when you're going through a period of suffering or a period of challenge, whatever that is, respect it, learn everything you can about it, make, the best right choice, not just knee jerk because it's right there in front of you, but do your homework and figure out what's best. And then, understand that you're going to have some really phenomenal days and you're going to have some really tough days, but they're all equal, they're all equal in the fact that that's one of your days and it's how you respond to it. It's so much about, the sports, right? Where if you can respond to victory or defeat in the same dignity, then you really understand sports.
That's
and
right.
in that way, if you respond to those types of things, a great day and a tough day, equally with the same dignity, then you really understand how to live your life.
The poem "If" by Rudyard Kipling. There's a line in there that says, if you can basically approach success and failures as the imposters they are, just recognizing that each are imposters.
I love
right?
that. I love that. They're imposters because they put you in that weird place where, life is different. No, it's just, today was another day. It may open up some doors or it may close some depending on, whatever it is. But, again, everybody's life is theirs and it's theirs to live and it's theirs to enjoy and it's theirs to explore. And there's so much about, just our world that, we've seen it through COVID, wasn't, it's a pathogen, it's whatever it is that really, caused a lot of suffering and a lot of loss of life.
Yeah.
But you look at the deaths of despair, and that's like, bad things happen. We get sick all the time, but for people to get into a really tough period of suffering so much so that they take their own life. That's an epidemic that we really need to cure as soon as possible in every way we possibly can.
Yeah, it's so true. I think about this a lot. Like if we had this grasp, it's like we live like we will eternally be on the earth. And it's just, I think our whole days would change. And this is not you may reach through the screen and punch me here, but you have a reminder in your head that says that my days are numbered, right? I mean, and that and I'm not going to.
I'm totally comfortable with that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's all
okay.
good. No, because I feel like two things. One, I've gotten way more out of life than I ever thought to dream. Like I never would even thought to dream any of this stuff that's happened, right? And the other is I'm playing with house money now. It's like I could have, would have, should have died years ago, and now I get to, this is great. I go back to that, the analogy of house money. It's like I've got my winnings. I've got all those. I got more days than I ever thought possible. Yeah. So now it's just sort of like, how do I figure this thing out to where I can really just soak it up and live every day and understand the just the opportunity, the power, and the importance of every day, and just how, they're not guaranteed. Yeah. I'm not getting any younger, which is fine too. It's like the whole idea of getting old is its own accomplishment. Right. I always, whenever my kids say, I'm so tired, it's like, well, that's an achievement. You earn that. Yeah, that's right. So everything can be spun, right? Or everything can be tweaked, or everything can be, just looked upon differently. And that's why I really look more into optimism than I do into pessimism. And I see things obviously differently with a lot more of a long view perspective of, kind of life as I've lived it. now I'm 64,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, wow, that's crazy. I outlived my mom, and I'm about to outlive my dad.
Wow.
He died when he was 65. So it's, God willing, of course, but it's
Yeah.
just like, it's that whole thing of, I saw what those losses, how they affected me, and I want to learn from that, and I want to grow
Yeah.
from that, and I want to honor them,
Hmm.
and I want to, raise good kids that make good
Yeah.
choices, but they have to make mistakes and understand them in order for that to happen, so
Yeah.
it's all that, it's just like, I don't know, I just see life probably differently than a lot of people, but it's just the one I've been handed and the one I've been able to own and operate. So in that, I just really want to be joyful
Yeah.
and productive, and just bless people as best I can. And I'm going to probably let people down because, obviously nobody's perfect, and there's always those expectations, right?
Yeah.
That you can never be met.
For sure. Right.
But, if I have something to share, I'll share it. And people may not agree with me, and that's on them. That's fine.
Yeah.
We all have our journey, and I respect it. But, I just at the same time would love to encourage people to kind of step into their daily lives with hope instead of hopelessness.
And you think about it, you're playing with house money, but think about what it requires, one, for a human to be born.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Right?
Miraculous.
It's miraculous, and it's
Yeah.
that one. Not to my kids will listen to this and think I'm being gross by saying this, but it's that one sperm cell that made it, right? So there's the one, and happened to get that one egg, and then it happened to become a human, and then we happened to not get hit by a bus, and so we're all of us are living with house money. All of us are
Mm-hmm.
playing with house money. And so if we could get that, this is a challenge to me personally, as I'm saying it, is and hearing you saying it, is not just you because you've gone through what you've gone through, but everybody's playing with house money.
Yeah.
And if we could look with that, like, okay, well, let's make the most of it then,
Mm-hmm.
and live with abandon. And I think that'd change a bunch.
Well, abandon with guidelines.
Well, yeah, okay, Scott, I saw a guy the other day on the highway on a motorcycle. This terrifies me thinking about it. On a motorcycle at night going 70 miles an hour, texting while he's riding a motorcycle. So let's not do that. So we're not advocating for that kind of abandon. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So it's like, what works, what doesn't work, what's right and what's wrong, what invites success and what invites calamity, it's just that, I just 2 days ago, my Olympic roommate died of lung cancer, and he just said, why did I ever pick up those cigarettes? And it's just like, but people make those choices every day, it's, and it's just, we know, and there's risks to anything that we take on, and cigarettes are obviously legal and people buy them every day, and we know that they cause certain things to happen. And then, alcohol is the same, it's like it causes this and this. And we look at the amount of, people operating cars, and it's like, these are all choices we can all make, and sometimes, it's, we don't even know, right? It's like you get to a certain point, it's like, oh man, I lost my ability to make that a good choice there, right? It's like,
right.
So you look at those things with compassion and with a bit of empathy, and it's like, it's really easy to paint this broad stroke kind of opinions on things, but I try to look at each thing individually and just try to say, who am I to judge anyone? Right. Who am I to cast? It's like, we don't know there, and bad things happen, and it's awful when those things happen. And it's like, it'd been great to tackle my gigantic Olympic roommate who was a pair skater and so bloody strong you can't imagine, and just try to say, don't light up that cigarette. It's like fool's errand. I could have stopped him for anything, but again, it was just, that's a choice that he regretted, and I'm so sad that he's gone. It just breaks my heart.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Scott, we've the theme really here, without saying the word, has been intentionality, and that's, we're at Goaro. That's this podcast is all about. It's conversations with the people who strive to live intentionally, and everybody has a little bit of a different definition for that. I would love to hear from Scott Hamilton, what does intentionality mean to you?
First word that comes to mind is focus. Like if you're intentional, right, then you're focused on something. If you're intentional on being successful, then you are focused on what it's going to take for you to be successful. If you're intentional on wanting to be a good parent, then you're going to focus on showing up and being, present. And if you're focused on being a good, spouse, then you're going to look at your significant other, dedicate your life to,
Yeah.
and you're going to try to make it as good as it can be. So it's to me, it's all about focus and dedication, and those things really work well hand in hand. I didn't really know how to win in figure skating. I knew how to lose. I knew how to fail. And once I figured out that if I just approach it differently, if I focus on things and increase my intensity and my commitment level, that'll change the outcome of my preparation and how I'm able to be more competitive. And so the intentionality is, why would I wait till January to start training for a January competition?
Yeah, right.
It's like the intentionality is, okay, I got January competition. All right, let's spend the summer building the foundation, and then once we get into autumn, just put the pedal to the metal and start training like it's somebody's business, so that when you step on the ice in January, or when you step into that known appointment in January, you're 100% prepared, and there's nothing that's going to come as a shock or a surprise, because you've experienced all of it in your preparation. So I think intentionality is going to look different for each and every person, because their paths are different and our identities are different, and our what we want to accomplish in life is so different. So, but I do think it's a pure combination of focus and commitment.
I love that. Scott, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you for your generosity of time. We didn't go even in depth through your whole story. It's amazing, and it's out there. I'm amazed every time you speak. There is a different spin. You're telling the same story. You've told it so many times, but there's something different, and it's almost like you have a different revelation on each time, and it's so deep. I've legitimately have spent the last week, like I mentioned to you, in tears at times. Really, like, I'm so grateful for it. Just in tears at time, listening to your story and how beautiful it is, and it's inspired me very, very much. And so I'm really grateful for you, your story, your generosity. I'm grateful for the people who said to you, it's not over, for you saying to yourself, it's not over. And I know so many people, millions of people, are grateful for you telling them it's not over. So thank you for that.
Well, I've got a lot of wonderful people around me that have poured into me and sacrificed a great deal, for me. And I want to honor that the best way I possibly can. So thank you for allowing me to share a little bit today. And I wish you the best in this project and every other.
Thanks so much, Scott. Appreciate it.
All right.